So in this video, we're going to introduce a new concept for verbs, which is the voice of a verb, active and passive. Now, if I were to give you a noun, for example, puellam, there are three characteristics that that noun has. The holy trinity of nouns and adjectives: case, number, and gender. Well, a verb has characteristics as well. But a verb is going to have 5 characteristics. It's going to have a person, which of course we know is first person, second person, or third person. Person speaking, person being spoken to, person obviously being spoken about. There's also a number, believe it or not, that's what the pound symbol indicates, number, not just a hashtag. And of course that is going to be singular and plural. Now both of these qualities are usually told to you by the ending. So when I look at moose, I know that this is first plural. The subject is we. Then there's going to be a tense. And of course we all know that our tenses are 6 in number in Latin: present, imperfect, future, which you can see are written in green, and then perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect, which of course would be written in brown. There is what's called the mood of the verb, which for us so far is either indicative, stating a fact, or imperative, which is a command. And then finally there is what's called voice. Now, in every single aspect, how do you know the person, number, tense, mood, voice of a verb? The answer is because of the form. First person, I see the ending, a part of the form. Plural, I see the ending, part of the form. Tense, present, because of the form, present stem, present vowel, present ending. Mood, indicative. If it has the subjects I, you, he, we, all, they, and it's stating a fact, it's indicative. I can tell because of the form, and it's not the form of the imperative. Voice, on the other hand, there are 2 options. There is active, and there is passive. Everything that we've encountered so far has been active voice. I verb, you verb, he verbs, we verb, y'all verb, they verb. And then it could be imperfect. I was verbing, you were verbing, he was verbing. We could be future. I will verb, you will verb, he will verb. In every one of those expressions, active means the subject does the action. The subject does it. Active, subject commits the action. Active, subject commits the action. Passive voice, on the other hand, subject acted upon. So I'm going to use as an example an English statement with the subject being Mr. Adams, and our verb is to carry. All right? So as you can see me right now, I have something in my hand, and if I say Mr. Adams carries, which is, of course, what's happening here. Do you see how I am carrying? Mr. Adams is doing the action. Mr. Adams carries. Now, you don't have to say what he carries. He carries the bobblehead. He carries the thing. He carries the item. You don't have to have a direct object, but the point is, Mr. Adams carries. But think about it. This is also Mr. Adams. And so could we say that Mr. Adams is carried? Mr. Adams is being carried? That would be passive. Active, the subject does the action. Passive, the subject is acted upon. And that's your first embedded item. Acted upon. A-C-T-E-D, next word, U-P-O-N. Acted upon. Now, how do I know when something in Latin is passive? In other words, the subject does not do the action, but rather the subject is acted upon. Mr. Adams loves the copier. He does the action. But unfortunately, when that copier jams, I cannot say that Mr. Adams is loved passively by the copier. And so, again, active, subject does the action, passive, subject acted upon. Now, how will, especially for our 3 green tenses, and remember the 3 green tenses are present tense, imperfect tense, future tense, all use the present stem, all indicate action not completed, and all use present endings. But there are a new set of endings. And these new set of endings are our present passive endings. So when you have these new endings on those verbs, the present verbs, imperfect verbs, future verbs, You will still have the subjects I, you, he, we, y'all, they, but no longer I do something, I was doing something, I will do something, but more so I am having something done to me. I was having something done to me. I will have something done to me. And these then are those endings that now you need to learn. They will be are, ris, tour, more, many, intour. Still I, you, he, we, y'all, and they, but now it will be passive. Now you form passive verbs in the exact same way that you do the actives. Remember our chart here for the different conjugations. It will still have present stem, present vowel, but now your present passive endings if it's passive. Present stem, imperfect symbol, but now with your passive endings, and then the same thing for the future. Such that I could easily change these future endings to become passive by simply making them. Bore with an R. Uh-oh. Barris, and I have to make an equation I'll explain. Bitor. Bimor. Bimini. And then buntor. You see what I've done? I've now replaced it with R, ris, tour, more, many, intour. And I can do the same thing down here. Audiar, audieris, audiator. I'm using as an example the verb audio. But ea mur, ea mini, and en tour. And that's your second item. M-I-N-I. Many. The y'all subject of passive. As in y'all are acted upon. Now there's two things we need to point out. One, we have a couple of new equations to learn. And the first one, let's deal with this. If I have a long E plus an R, it now will become an AR. That's a new equation. But remember, that's like peas in the pod. And when you see AM as a verb, or AR, it's future, because that long E is most likely that long E right there. And then finally, here we saw something in which, if ever you have a short I plus the ending ris, that short I will turn into a short E, and it will become eris. That's why it's bor, beris, bitor, bimor, buni, and then buntor. So let's go and see about forming some of these verbs in our new expression of the passive voice. So here I have active, and over here we're going to make the passive, and we'll do the same thing there, same things there, same things there, and same things there, and then translate them and see the difference between them. So, amamus, we still have the same stem, we still have the same vowel, long A, but now instead of moose, we love, we are loving, we do love, more. It happens to us. We are loved. We are being loved. Same thing here. It's exactly the same stem, same vowel, BA, but now with a more. We were loving, we were doing it, we loved. We were loved. We loved, we were loved. It happened to us. We were loving, we were being loved. And the same thing here, in which still still ABI, and then more, as in we will be loved. And so you can see the only difference is instead of OST must disenti, you have RIS tour, more many intour. Do the exact same thing over here, in which it would be same stem, same vowel, and then ris. Then same stem, EBA, and then ris instead of an S. Same stem, EBI, and then ris. But remember the equation. You cannot have a short I before the ris, and so it will turn into that. I ask most people, what two letters did I underline? They would say BE, but that's not a BE, that's really a BI. And so again, you see, you are seen. You were seeing, you were seen, or were being seen. You will see, you will be seen. Now, I'm going to come back to this in just a moment to tell you something special about this verb in the passive, but we can move on. Over here, mido, midere, we do the exact same thing. Same stem, M-I-T-T, same vowel I, and then tour. That's the only difference. He sins, he is sent. This would be the person, this would be the letter. The person sends the letter is sent. Over here, M-I-T-T, E-B-A, and then tour. Note that a T will edamacron, but a tour will not. Mitet would be M-I-T-T, long E because that is the future, and then tour. Mitator. How do I know that this is a future and not a present? Because the long E is inside a third conjugation. Over here, yuck, and then you would still have your vowel, I-U, untour. NT still has the same effect as what you have with I plus NT, or long I plus NT. It still will go to UNT, and we all know I-O here, I-U there. That's why it's an I-U instead of just a U. Here it would be Yakie Bontour. No longer NT, they were throwing, but rather they were thrown. They were being thrown. And then for the future, Yaki Intour. They will throw, they will be thrown. And then finally down here, for the verb to hear, audio adire, what you will do is that for all of these endings, R, ris, tour, more, many, and tour, stem vowel ending, 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 for the R, to make the passive in the first person singular, just simply take that first principal part, the active I hear, and just stick an R on it. That's how you would form it. It's al, di, or. I hear, I am heard, I am being heard. Here, it would be al, di, a, bar. Instead of an M, it has that R for the passive. And then audiam turns into audi. And then, remember, long E plus R, same event in which it turns into an A. And thus you have audiar. So let's highlight some particular translations. Let's start with the present. Here, they throw. They are throwing. They are doing it. They do it actively. They do throw. They do it. Versus the passive. They are thrown. They are being thrown. And that's your third item. Are thrown. A-R-E, new word, space, T-H-R-O-W-N. Are thrown passively. Let's pick another one. How about we go with up here. Now, imperfect. Vidibas. You saw. You were seeing. Now over here, the asterisk is there because not only in the passive is it going to no longer mean to see, but to be seen. To be seen also is going to mean to seem. So if I say, you are seen as a good student, that means you seem a good student. Here, you saw. Here it would be you, or I should say, yes, you seemed, or you were seen. Were seen is the same thing as saying as you seemed. You were seen as a good student in high school. You seemed a good student. And that's your second word. Seemed. The translation. You seemed. S-E-E-M-E-D. That's your fourth item. And then finally, let's go for the translation of the future down here. To audio audire. I will hear. I will actually do the action tomorrow. I will listen. I will hear. Audiam. Passively, I will be heard. Will be heard. And that then is your last. Will be heard. W-I-L-L. Next word B-E. Next word H-E-A-R-D. And this is the passive voice. What you need to know is that no longer are you going to have these endings OST, mustis, inti, but instead new endings are ristur, more, many, and then intur. It still forms the same way in the present, imperfect, and future. You still have the present stem and those things and then the endings. Present stem, those things, and then the endings. Present stem, those things, and then the endings. It's just that the active endings, subject does the action, was doing the action, will do the action. Passive, subject is acted upon, was acted upon, or will be acted upon. Or not future, passive voice. Know it.